to Cross Stitch the Globe. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Allison.
This is a channel about cross stitch. Today we're going to be covering how to separate 6-stranded floss. We make these these short, bite-sized video tutorials come out on Thursdays for people, mostly for people who buy patterns from our Etsy shop. But if you are a subscriber to our normal Flosstube channel and you want to add if you have like a method or a tip that you do that's different than this, we would love if you leave it in the comments. Mm-hmm. And that way, if you're a beginner and you're watching this to learn, go check out the comments as well, because you'll have some extra great info. Yeah. We have 3 kinds of videos on our channel. So if you are coming here as a beginner, we would love it if you subscribe, because there's an entire world of cross stitch on YouTube that...
You make it sound like it's an underground society. Well, we're going to make it an above ground society.
There's a full-on secret society on YouTube called Flosstube. But you know how like we're always finding people who say like, I've been cross stitching for 10 years and I just discovered Flosstube.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're a beginner, you probably have not discovered Flosstube.
That's true.
Yeah. And Flosstube, it's both like the world of cross stitch on YouTube, but it's also specifically these like fun deep dives into people's personal stitching, where they talk about new starts and works in progress and things they finished, and
other people's dogs,
and we see lots of pets. So what is a Flosstube episode? So on every other Monday, we come out with these long dives into our personal stitching, and a lot of people do it. It's so fun. I love seeing what other people are working on.
And we work on different things.
Yeah, and we love sharing with you guys what we're working on. And like, yeah, that's how you can find out about designers and fabrics. So if you've never seen a Flosstube, we would love if you stick around. Yeah. And then in between those, we come out with like longer deep dives into like the philosophy, the advanced topics, the like just interesting things about cross stitch that we don't have time to fit in our regular Flosstubes, and are also not like beginner specific. So
it's just us talking about cross stitch and what we like about it, basically.
Yeah. So we're about to come out with a series on free patterns, because our most expensive series is wrapping up. We have how to make some like needle minders. We have lots of topics. So yeah, we would love if you subscribe and stick around. Now, today's topic: how to separate 6-stranded floss. Now, I had done an entire like piece before I learned that there were some pretty easy tricks. I first learned how to separate 6-stranded floss separate stranded floss from Fat Quarter Shop, but then also DMC's website has the same instructions. So these are some kind of like universally known tips, but like usually your pattern where it says like how to cross stitch doesn't have this information.
Right, you have to go looking for it. Yeah.
So we're here to help you, so you don't have as many knots and thrown away floss and like headaches.
It can be very frustrating.
If you don't know how to do it,
if you haven't been shown, it's really
you will get your floss all messed up.
Yeah.
All right, so
I've run a few skeins. It's not a big deal.
So we're going to demonstrate how to do it a few different ways, because there's different floss storage systems, and so there's depending on how you store your floss, there's a few different ways to do it, but it all comes down to basically like you need to get one strand away from the pack. Mm-hmm. And you need to do it without getting the rest of your strands in a big tangle.
Right.
All right. Allison is going to show us first how to do it from a bobbin, because Allison uses bobbins mostly. So we're going to show bobbin, skeins, and a couple different kind of floss drops, how to separate it. Now, according to the DMC website, their official thing that they say is that the perfect length of thread is the length between your fingertips and your elbow. Now, if you're going to do a loop start where you're going to use the same piece of floss looped over, then you can cut from like the fingertips to like around here. And then, but if you're going to just do a regular start, most people will stick to like this kind of length. Though some people like it way longer. And there are some specialty flosses where you need to do it way shorter. But by the time you're doing that, you're probably not needing this video.
Yeah, it'll matter. Pick your preference before you cut.
Yeah. And I have different links for different projects.
Me too.
So like this floss I don't loop start this floss, so this floss is all about that length, because you can see half of it is about to my form. Yeah. Whereas like this project where I'm doing with skeins, I will do like all the way over, because I'm going to loop start it. So you need to kind of know how you're going to start your floss before, but if you've never started floss before, we are going to get to that eventually. I don't know how many weeks from now, but eventually we'll get to that. But if you're watching this and we've been out for a while, that video probably exists too. Yeah. All right, so Allison does not do a loop start.
Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. Okay. So it depends on how I'm feeling, but this one, if I was gonna do a loop start, do that.
So she'd take her bobbin, she'd measure her floss, and there are like, once you've been, you know, cross stitch is really for you. There are like measuring tools you can buy and things, but like if this is you, like if you're a beginner, just do that and you'll be fine.
Dramatic. Okay, so this is DMC. It's a 6-stranded floss. So you have literally 6 different pieces of the floss, and your instinct is probably going to be to just pull them apart.
Like peel it like a banana.
Just like a banana, right? You're
Don't
just gonna
peel it like a banana.
Don't do that.
That's what causes knots. And
Okay.
I did it so many times.
You'll ruin, yeah, you can ruin a lot of floss doing that. And mostly aggravating. It's so aggravating.
Because you have to
try
stop and like undo it.
tangle it,
And especially if you have a piece where you're like a beginner and you're changing colors a lot,
Yeah.
it can be really annoying really fast.
So the trick is you hold it between your fingers like that. Find one strand. Pick out one of the strands. I can't say around your hand. Oh. Okay, so I've separated just that one. So I'm still holding it like tight between my thumb and forefinger. And you pull it out.
And this will not be knotted.
It's not knotted. It's not tangled. And then you've had your one floss.
Yay! All right. If you're very new, you may not have a preference between putting things on bobbins and floss straps, whatever. You may just be working from skeins, or you might be working from skeins where you're packing things into bags. So like some people will put things in flossaway bags on bobbins, and some people just like, I have projects where I literally am just storing the skein in a bag. And you can either buy flossaway bags or you can buy regular sandwich bags and put a punch hole yourself. If you're doing that, Allison, what would you do? All right, so if you're just gonna pull it off the skein, what do you do?
Okay, so this is DMC, and it works with Cosmo too. But where the number is, that's the end that you want to pull out of. So if there's probably going to be one on each side.
There is one on each side, and if you do what I did, which is pull for the wrong one, you will get a giant headache.
Yeah, it will give you a nightmare. Okay, so if you find the end on the one with the number. Let me see that number.
It does not.
It doesn't focus today.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so you want to pull it that way, and then you can pull it out however long you want, and clip.
Clip, and then you do the same.
And then you do the same thing I did before, where you hold it between your finger and your thumb, and you kind of like fan it out with your finger and thumb, and then you can grab one more easily, and then you hold it and pull, and it pulls it up, and it's perfectly done.
And then if you're doing it from a bobbin, you would take the other strands you're not using and you'd wind it back around your bobbin.
Yeah.
If you're doing it from the skein, I tend to either keep it in flossaway bags, or I do have one project that I'm about to show you where I literally just have like a loose pile of skeins. And
hand wrap it back around.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's like as unideal as you can imagine. But I just have one project like this, so it doesn't stress me out, or you just wrap it back. Not
and
the
if that
best.
doesn't stress you out, that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. Well, and also like I bought so much secondhand floss where that's how people had stored it, because like before, cross stitch didn't used to have all of these like fancy things that you needed, and so people were very much more like either bobbins or skeins and then wind it back. And so that has worked for decades. So if that's what you want to do, don't stress it out. I do think putting it in bags is better for me. Like if I'm going to do that, put it in sandwich bags, but all of that takes time to set up. So if you just have it on a skein, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right. So the next time we're going to show you is floss straps. Now, if you're like a beginner, you might be like, well, what's a floss strap? And we will cover all of that in a separate video on like the different storage techniques. But let's say you have a project, and most likely if you're a very beginner and you have floss straps, it's because you bought fancy floss that came on a card and you just cut it and put it back on the card. But if you do have like a sturdy floss strap and you want to take one strand, so let's say, then what you want to do is, can you see if it's focusing or if I need to be? Yeah, okay. So you take,
right there.
So you take your needle, you find one strand, which is harder to do when it's a foot from my face. You find one strand, you pull and it's out. And that is really one of the main reasons people like floss drops is that once you set, the floss drops are annoying to set up on the front end, but once they are all set up, they're very pretty, they're very photographic and photogenic if you want to do like a pretty photo of them on your Instagram account, which I love. But also, the real part is that when you change colors, it's so easy.
Whereas I have to wind it
back up.
Unwind it, wind it, unwind it.
Yeah.
It's my preference.
Well, and everybody has their own preferences. So so the thing is actually, so I brought over some different projects I have because I have like, unless you're a monogamous stitcher, you're going to have things set up different ways because every time you set up a new project, as you're trying to figure out what you like, you'll have these older systems. So you still, just because you like one system doesn't mean that's the only thing you might actually be currently using.
Right.
So, one second. Okay. So I'll just put that over here. Okay. So I want to show something else though. If you are working with a fancier floss or a DMC variegated or something where both of these floss change colors. This one changes colors subtly and this one changes colors a lot, but they both have like tonal variations in them. There we go. So when you separate floss and you separate floss that you want to keep those changes, then you want to do something a little bit different. You don't want to just take one string out. You want to take out two strings that go the same direction. And very experienced stitchers probably can do that straight off the floss drop. To me, I'm not in a point where I can make sure that I'm pulling my needle from the same set of 6 strands both times, and also that once what I've pulled out goes the same direction. Now, if you get really lost, you can kind of line your pieces up and kind of see like, do the colors match, do the like little curves and then match, but that's annoying.
That's hard.
So it's like, I have definitely done that, but I don't love to do that. So when I have something that has a lot of variation, whether it's subtle or it's not, but if I want the variation to show in the project, I will go ahead and pull out the string from the floss drop, put the rest of it, put this needle back on the magnet or I'm gonna lose it.
Like that.
Okay. So I will go ahead and pull the 6 strands out from the floss drop, put the rest back on the floss drop. Now, could you take that out like without removing all the floss? Yeah, but I just don't. Like I like to, if I'm really worried about variegation, I just take the whole thing out and don't stress it, and then I put the rest of it back on the floss drop. Because to me, that's easier than being worried that I didn't take out the right pieces.
That makes sense.
So then, if you have, if you're only gonna do one strand, like if you're working on like 40 count or 36 count, you're only gonna stitch with one strand, even if it's highly variegated and you're working with the floss drop, go ahead and pull it. Like, don't worry about it. But if you need to do 2 strands off a floss drop with high variegation or any variegation, I would go ahead and get the 6 strands out and then pull. Now, I'm gonna put this one in my, like, when I put this one down, I'm gonna make sure that it's going in one direction, but for Allison, can just hold it right now. And I'm gonna pull the second one straight away so that I know that it's from the same and that they go the same direction. So even though you would think, well, that's so easy and stupid, I promise you there are many stitchers, where the first time they're like, oh, I know all about how to stitch with variegated. I've watched,
I didn't.
And you still are like, but wait a minute, these are flipped around. And what happens when you flip them around and they don't go the same direction is that now on a subtle one, you're gonna lose that subtle variegation. It's gonna kind of all wash out, so where it's almost all the same. And on a highly variegated, all of a sudden you're gonna have a green and a black or a pink and a black together on this one, and that's gonna lose like the whole point of this floss.
Yeah.
So even though it's like, sounds silly, when you're pulling floss that has any kind of variegation or color changes in it whatsoever, pull them at the same time. And then on floss drops, if some floss drops, not all, but some floss drops have a second hole to put what's called a working thread. And I'm gonna put those back there just for, they don't get mixed up. But that's where I would put the other pieces of that 6 strands. Now, Some people like to, so a lot of fancy flosses have subtle variegation in them. All of these do, but you can't really see it on the skein, but you see it when you stitch it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to just use the card as the floss drop instead of putting it on a plastic card. Like, first of all, it looks great.
It looks great.
It looks so cool.
It's so cool.
And a lot of people will go ahead and do that same needle trick with these. I choose not to because I don't want these to get beat up because I don't know. Some of these are going to last late. Some of these, the project might only have a few pieces in them, and I don't want them to get beat up, and I don't want to have to reinforce this hole.
Yeah.
So I still go ahead and pull out a whole 6 strands and do what I did there. Pull out the 6 strands, pull the 2 in the same direction, or 1 if I'm only stitching with 1. But these don't have working holes. I've seen people punch holes in them, but I don't want to do anything that's going to mess up the integrity of the card.
Got the information.
So like this one, I've taken off. I took out a 6 strand, pulled the floss that I wanted, and then I took what was left over and I just wound it back beside it so I can see when I open it. Okay, well, this was what I want to pull from next.
Okay.
So not like super complicated, not rocket science, but just like a little tip. All right, so if you have any other tips or tricks on how to separate stranded floss, we'd love to know. Leave them in the comments. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Did you have anything to add? I didn't ask.
No, it's the same with variegated floss for DMC. Just make sure, or whichever brand you're using, off of this, just make sure you're pulling 2 of the same direction.
Yeah. If you have made it to this point in the video, in the comments, leave a number 6 for 6-stranded floss.
Yay!
Could be a number 6 or an emoji of a 6, whatever you want to do, or you can write the word 6. And that'll be our secret language that you made it to this point in the video. I cannot believe how long this video is for such a simple topic. Wow. We were like, how are we going to even make it more than 5 minutes? If you're not subscribed, we would love to have you. And thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.